Usually these are listed. No, it's actually they invested in
And we'll begin with prayer. I'm just going to say I'm a big fan of the extra mug of the jar. It really helps space things out a little bit and takes the pressure off of like pouring so quickly after winter break. Just wanted to share that. That's my observation. I've been a big Adar bet kind of guy.
His birthday is 4th of time.
Oh, that's exciting. So do you give her like 2 birthday parties, like for like when there isn't like a Purim, when there isn't like Adar? God willing, you have a long, long tenure. How do I know which camera's the real thing?
You don't.
Okay, fine. Good answer.
Yeah.
Friends, at this time we are going to prepare to begin the funeral service. We welcome those of you who are joining us online for the funeral of Robert Bob Drucker. For those of you here in the sanctuary, I would ask that if you have a cell phone or a pager, that you please take a moment to turn it off or place it in the silent mode. And officiating today's services will be Rabbi Rachel Kaplan-Marks, here from Temple Beth Israel, and Rabbi Lisa Bellows from Congregation Beth Am. And as we begin our service today, the clergy, the rabbis, will lead the family in the tradition of Kriya.
This past week was filled with a lot of caregiving 24/7, which is not that unusual for what you, the family, have done, but it was unusual in the intensity and the knowing and the not knowing and back again. So while we're just coming off of such a frantic time, we can settle in and we can settle down, that our hearts, while breaking with this loss, are full, because Bob lived a full and blessed life. Adonai ma'adam v'tida'ehu, Bein enosh v'techashavehu. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, whether we understood we were where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. Our psalmist, King David, was a man who wrote about issues that he sometimes struggled with: faith, loss. He was a poet who spoke also about life and love. You have the 23rd Psalm on the inside cover of the leaflet. I'll read part of the Psalm in Hebrew, and then let's join together in the English. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, Binot desha yarbitzeni, alme menachot shenachaleni. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not in some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, blessed be the name of God. In ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of the shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave and that there is strength in faith. With Job we say, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will never be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in Bob's life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love, as we now say, Yehi shem Adonai mevorach. Blessed be the name of God now and forever. And lastly, in the book of Ecclesiastes, we read that there's a time for every purpose. There's a time to keep silent and a time to speak.
We're taught in the Talmud that Rabbi Elazar said, from the day the temple was destroyed, the gates of prayer were closed. However, even though the gates of prayer were closed, the gates of tears remained open. Bob Drucker knew something about the gates of tears. Bob was an emotional man. He cried tears of sadness and tears of happiness. He was unafraid to show his emotions. He was kind, and he was quiet, and he was humble. Bob lived his life as a Forbrenta Southsider. Having grown up in Hyde Park, he and his beloved wife Marlene would talk about the good old days at Rodfeit Tzedek and Hyde Park High School. For Bob and Marlene, their thinking, passion, friends, life, and identity were all tied up in that tight-knit South Side Jewish community. Eventually, the young couple moved further south to Homewood. It was there that those Southside roots extended out as they built a community together with their peers. Those young families relied upon one another and raised their children together. Don, Alan, and Gail, you remember having many pseudo-aunts and uncles as your parents were integrally a part of that budding community. Whether through Anshe Sholom, Idlewild Club, or simply the neighborhood, Bob and Marlene were proud to be socially active in the community. And Bob was a hard worker. Though never materially wealthy, he took great pride in providing for his family. Sunday dinners were always his treat, and even when Alan came to town and would intend to take Bob out for a meal, Bob would insist, "I'm the father, I pay." Bob was a detail-oriented person, which served him well as the editor-in-chief of the high school yearbook, and it served him well in his career as an in-house accountant. He took great pride in filing his own taxes each and every year, up until he could no longer see. Bob was a generous and giving person. He put others before himself, and he supported many charities. Not only did he help his family and friends with their taxes, but after his retirement and until he physically couldn't do it anymore, he would volunteer his Saturdays during tax season at the library, offering free assistance to anyone who needed help. Bob enjoyed the simple pleasures of life: chocolate ice cream, black cows and super dogs, a good steak, Sunday mornings with lox, bagels, and smoked fish. He loved a good jigsaw or crossword puzzle, and he appreciated the strategy involved in playing Rubby Cube and gin. And he liked to be able to provide special treats to those he loved: Cubs games and trips to Mackinac Island. He never missed a holiday or a birthday celebration. And when he was younger, together Bob and Marlene greatly enjoyed entertaining their friends and family in their home. Bob was grounded and down to earth. He understood how to savor the seemingly small moments of life. Bob was a loyal person and a good friend. It wasn't uncommon for Bob's friendships to span 6 or 7 decades. Truly, he was a lifelong friend to many. He was still close with friends from AZA in high school and with his Pylam friends from the University of Illinois. He regularly went to lunch and would talk on the phone with those dear friends. He was proud of every group of which he was a part. Whether it was the fraternity at U of I or his time in the Navy, his friends from his childhood and from those early years in Homewood, and even the deep friendship he and Marlene forged with the Horbergs, who I'm told are the couple that crashed their wedding. Bob treasured people, and he treasured relationships. And he was a proud Jew. He expressed this throughout the various stages of his life. Of note were his deep involvement with the men's club and helping to organize the Sunday school parking and the ushers at Anshe Sholom. Later in life, he loved attending services at Temple Beth Am. Each year for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, he would sing along to the prayers and listen to the sermons, really taking them in. And Bob never missed Yizkor services. He felt a sense of loyalty to the family members he had loved and lost. Family was what mattered most to Bob. He was a devoted and loving son, brother, husband, father, and grandfather. Bob was loyal, too, to his nephews, aunts, uncles, and cousins. He was so pleased to have been included in the family reunion with relatives who found him. Bob loved and respected his parents. After his father passed away in 1973, Bob called his mother Alice at least once a day. Gail carried on this tradition, as she would call Bob each day during her commute. After Alice passed in 1984, Bob became the patriarch of the family. It was a role in which he took great pride and found a sense of enjoyment. Bob and his brother Ed, Zichrono Livracha, shared a tight brotherly bond. Bob's children found letters that Bob sent to Ed during boot camp. It was remarkable to see the way in which their father, at the age of 18, expressed love and care for his younger brother. Not only was Ed important to Bob, but so were his dear sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and all of the siblings' children, his nephews, who Bob cherished throughout his life. Through the generations, holidays were spent in Skokie, first at Arthur and Cookie's house, Zichronam Livracha, and then by his children, Lisa and Don. As the saying went, it was a much shorter ride for the Southsiders to come up north than for the Northsiders to go south. After graduating from the University of Illinois, Bob and Marlene were set up by their mutual friends, Roberta and Stanley. Despite the 8-year age difference between the two, it was a perfect match. Bob and Marlene were best friends and the loves of each other's lives. Not only did the two love each other, but they really liked each other too. Bob and Marlene shared a true partnership and marriage, and they were wonderful parents to their children, Don, Alan, and Gail. They provided a loving and stable home, complete with family dinners each night. And in the Drucker home, education was of greatest importance. Bob took pride in the educational achievements of each of his children, and later on of his grandchildren. He marveled at their careers and celebrated their successes. As the family expanded and Lisa, Michael, and Mark came into the picture, Bob's heart expanded too, showing the same kind of love that he had known and cherished with his mother and father-in-law to his children's spouses. And as much as Bob loved his children, he lived for his grandchildren, Rachel and Dana, Steffi, and Ross. As the 4 grandchildren were growing up, he was so supportive of all of their activities, showing up to every Little League, softball, and soccer game, to all of the Cub Scout activities and dance recitals, and to sing Rachel and Dana off to summer camp. Bob was a great conversationalist. His grandchildren loved talking with him on the phone at least a few times each week. And though Bob's health really declined over the past few years, he was sharp as a tack until the very end. He remembered the details about his children and grandchildren's lives. He wanted to hear about each and every one of your successes and how your days went. So now, it's your tears that are present as you remember your dear grandfather, your father, your uncle and friend. Drawing on Bob's example, you'll shed tears, you'll show your emotions, and together you'll remember Bob's well-lived life. At the same time, we'll pray that Bob's soul be bound up forever with the eternal. I invite you now to please rise. El male rachamim, shochein bamromim, hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina, im kedoshim utehorim, kezohar harakia mazhirim, et nishmat Ruvain ben Yaakov ve'Alice, shahalach la'olamo, Baal harachamim yastirehu, beseter knafav la'olamim. Vaitzror bitzror hachayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Bob Drucker, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And together we say, Amen.
Friends, this concludes the services here at the synagogue. The interment and burial services will continue at Westlawn Cemetery in Norridge. For those of you traveling with us to the cemetery and the funeral procession, please do keep the following safety precautions in mind. Please make sure that your bright headlights and your four-way hazard flashers are on at all times. Please be sure to obtain an orange funeral safety sticker for your windshield, and we will be providing several of the cars throughout the procession with a magnetic orange flag to be placed on top of your car. Please travel as close as safety permits to the car in front of you to avoid any gaps in our procession. For your own safety and security, I would suggest not speaking or texting while driving to the cemetery in the funeral procession. The family will be together at the Continental Restaurant at 788 South Buffalo Grove Road in Buffalo Grove this afternoon into the evening from 4 until 8 p.m. And there will be a gathering together for a minion service at 7 o'clock this evening. Memorial contributions may be made to the charity of your choice. And at this time, I'd like to call upon the following individuals who have been asked to serve as pallbearers, and we'll invite you to make your way to the center of the aisle. Rachel Truger, Dana Truger, Ross Drucker, Steffi Drucker, Rick Drucker, Brian Drucker, Bruce Friedman, Sherry Wishnia, Howie Burnett, Sonny Horberg, Hank Nussbaum. At this time, I would ask for everyone to please rise and stand in place as we escort the casket, the clergy, and the family from the sanctuary. Thank you. You may return